The family gathering was supposed to heal old wounds. Instead, one furious sentence turned it into the most painful royal confrontation in years. Before the room could recover, Prince William crossed to his daughter, placed a protective hand on her shoulder, and removed Princess Charlotte from the gathering. No announcement was made. No explanation was offered. But every person present understood that Meghan's outburst had crossed a line the future king would not ignore. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. King Charles had brought the family together at Windsor Castle after months of strained communication, hoping the evening might slow the bitterness tearing through the House of Windsor. The House of Windsor is the family name used by Britain's reigning royal dynasty, and its survival has depended on unity. That made the gathering more than dinner. It tested whether damaged relationships could be repaired before the next generation inherited them. Charlotte attended only the opening portion because William and Catherine had been assured the evening would remain calm. She was not there for negotiations or grievances. She was there because her grandfather wanted the room to feel like family again. That promise collapsed when Meghan challenged Catherine over who could speak publicly about the Wales children. Meghan's voice hardened. Catherine stayed seated, shaken but refusing to answer with anger. Then the Duchess referred to Charlotte while arguing that some royal children were protected from scrutiny, while others were left exposed. Harry tried to interrupt. Charles raised one hand, demanding silence. William moved first. The prince pushed back his chair and crossed the room without looking toward his brother or sister-in-law. Charlotte glanced at her mother, then at Harry, confusion tightening across her face as the adults stopped pretending the exchange was harmless. William bent close and told her they were leaving. She gripped his hand at once. The decision carried enormous weight because the future king had already warned palace organizers that his children must never become part of a confrontation involving the Sussexes. That warning had been documented in a private planning note before the gathering, yet someone had ignored it. Catherine folded Charlotte's abandoned napkin while Meghan insisted her words had been misunderstood. Harry demanded that William return. Charles said nothing. Then an aide noticed papers beside Meghan's chair. They were not dinner notes. They contained prepared grievances about family boundaries, public treatment, and the younger generation. As William led Charlotte away from the shattered gathering, the question was no longer why he had acted. It was what Meghan had planned to say before the room broke. Behind the headlines were 4 people carrying very different wounds. William saw a threat to his child. Catherine heard an accusation aimed at the heart of her family. Harry watched another attempt at reconciliation collapse before his eyes. Meghan believed she had finally said what everyone else was too frightened to confront. The gathering had exposed more than disagreement. It revealed 4 incompatible versions of loyalty, protection, truth, and betrayal. William knelt beside Charlotte in a quiet corridor, lowering his voice as the noise behind the closed door faded. He asked whether she understood what had happened. She shook her head. The prince then told her firmly that she had done nothing wrong and that none of the anger belonged to her. His fear reached far beyond that evening. Once Charlotte, George, and Louis became symbols in the family conflict, strangers could define them through public stories they were too young to answer. Catherine remained inside, holding herself together while the empty chair beside her seemed to carry more weight than anyone still seated. She folded Charlotte's abandoned napkin and placed it carefully beside the plate. The Princess of Wales had entered the gathering, hoping controlled civility might reduce pressure on the children during future royal events. Royal events are public or private occasions attended by members of the monarchy as part of their family or official roles. A calmer relationship could have protected the younger generation from awkward encounters, divided seating arrangements, and constant speculation. Instead, the gathering had made those dangers more real. Harry watched his wife defend herself and felt his loyalties splitting apart. He wanted to challenge William's reaction, Yet he also understood that mentioning his niece had changed the nature of the argument. What began as an adult complaint had entered a child's emotional world. The Duke tried to explain this quietly, but Meghan insisted she had never attacked Charlotte personally. Meghan's frustration deepened as she argued that the young princess had only been used to expose what she saw as unequal protection. She believed some royal children were shielded by palace systems, while others became acceptable subjects of criticism. A documented account, later prepared by the meeting secretary, recorded her repeated claim that her words had been misunderstood. Yet that same account also confirmed something more troubling. Charlotte had heard an earlier disagreement before the main outburst. Charlotte had paused near the doorway when Meghan questioned why certain family members received stronger institutional protection than others. Institutional protection meant the palace's coordinated use of security, legal advice, and communication support to defend senior royals. William had not known his daughter heard that exchange until she quietly asked why the adults were angry. Then one detail changed everything. The original schedule showed that Charlotte was supposed to leave before the private discussion began. A revised version had extended her time at the gathering without William's approval. The emotional damage was clear, but the altered schedule pointed towards something deeper. A decision made days earlier that had quietly placed Charlotte in the path of the coming storm. The confrontation at Windsor did not begin at the dinner table. Its true origin lay 3 weeks earlier, during a private garden reception, where one brief exchange hardened every suspicion already dividing the family. Meghan approached Catherine with a request concerning the children, and the Princess of Wales refused. The conversation lasted less than 5 minutes. Yet those who later reconstructed it would identify that quiet refusal as the exact moment reconciliation became almost impossible. Tension had already been building through interviews, memoir references, and private family stories that later reached public audiences. William and Catherine feared that even harmless moments involving Charlotte, George, or Louis could be reshaped into headlines. For that reason, the couple had adopted one strict rule: no personal account involving their children could be shared publicly without their direct consent. The Princess of Wales understood that rule was not only about privacy. It protected 3 young lives from becoming weapons in conflicts they had never created. Meghan approached her during a garden reception at Clarence House and asked for support with a joint public statement. Clarence House is a royal residence used by senior members of the family for official duties and private events. The proposed message would present all the royal cousins as symbols of unity, suggesting that the next generation remained connected despite the growing divide between their parents. Catherine listened without interrupting. Then she declined in a calm but unmistakably firm voice. Charlotte, George, and Louis would not appear in any statement connected to unresolved adult disputes. Meghan lowered her voice and tightened her grip around a glass of water. She accused the future queen of using motherhood as a shield against difficult questions, and of protecting one branch of the family while leaving another exposed. The words landed hard. Catherine set down her untouched drink and answered that protecting children was not avoidance. It was responsibility. She ended the exchange before it could grow louder, but Meghan left believing the refusal confirmed every suspicion she carried about the Wales household. Harry later learned what happened through a recorded conversation with his wife that evening. He heard her describe the request, the rejection, and the final sentence. The Duke believed Catherine's refusal proved that the family wanted the appearance of peace without accepting the risks of genuine reconciliation. William received a written summary from a trusted aide the following morning. He immediately requested that every future meeting involving Harry and Meghan exclude the children. The prince feared that one angry exchange could pull them into a public story they were powerless to correct. Charles later challenged that decision. Hoping Charlotte's presence might soften the adults, he personally changed the Windsor schedule and asked that she attend briefly. The king assured William the gathering would remain warm, private, and free from arguments about media treatment or family rank. That promise failed before dinner ended. Meghan arrived still carrying the sting of Catherine's refusal, determined to reopen the very argument everyone believed had been buried. What Charles imagined would soften the room instead gave the dispute its most vulnerable witness, and when the old grievance returned, William was forced to confront Meghan face to face. William returned to the room without Charlotte, but the father who came back was not the prince who had left. His voice remained low. His posture remained controlled. Yet every word carried the force of a boundary that had finally been broken. Meghan refused to retreat. Harry moved closer to her chair, and Catherine watched the two brothers face each other across a room that had once represented family continuity, but now felt divided beyond repair. The door closed behind William after he confirmed that Charlotte was safe with her trusted nanny. He crossed back to the table, looked directly at Meghan, and asked her to repeat exactly what she had meant by mentioning his daughter. The prince did not raise his voice. That restraint made the question more dangerous. Meghan answered that Charlotte had never been the target. She said the young princess had been mentioned only to expose unequal expectations placed on different branches of the family. The Duchess insisted that one household received protection, while another was expected to absorb public judgment without complaint. William placed both hands against the back of the empty chair and paused. Then he said, "No grievance, however painful, justified using a child to wound her parents." His anger mattered, because the dispute had moved beyond reputation. It now threatened the emotional safety of children who could neither defend themselves nor control how their names were used. Harry stepped into the silence. He accused his brother of choosing the harshest possible interpretation of Meghan's words, and turning a difficult comparison into a personal attack. The Duke argued that his wife was describing a system, not condemning Charlotte. Catherine interrupted before William could answer. She told Harry that their daughter had heard enough to know she had become part of an adult conflict. The Princess of Wales then revealed, through a recorded conversation later given to a trusted family advisor, that Charlotte had asked whether she had done something wrong. Meghan's confidence faltered. Her expression changed, and for the first time she stopped defending the wording of the outburst. Charles ordered everyone to sit, hoping authority might restore control. The king could command silence, but he could not erase what the young princess had heard. The exact accusation now stood exposed. Meghan had claimed the Wales household presented Charlotte as protected and innocent, while treating other children as acceptable subjects of public debate. William rejected the comparison completely. Every child deserved protection, he said, and past harm could never justify exposing another young person to the same pain. A meeting secretary documented the confrontation immediately afterward. The recorded account noted that William's strongest anger appeared only after Charlotte's frightened question was repeated. Then the future king made his decision. Until trust was rebuilt, George, Charlotte, and Louis would attend no private gathering where Harry and Meghan were present. The confrontation had produced a boundary, but William's words carried no legal force on their own, until the family discovered who controlled the terms of every future royal gathering. William had acted as a father, but the consequences would be determined by a king. In the hours after the gathering, Charles sat alone with two competing responsibilities: preserve the possibility of reconciliation or support the protection demanded by his heir. He had invited Charlotte into the room believing innocence might calm resentment. Now he faced the painful truth that his own decision had placed his granddaughter inside a conflict she should never have witnessed. Charles controlled invitations to private royal gatherings because he remained both host and head of the family. These gatherings were personal meetings rather than official engagements, meaning they carried no public duty but could still shape relationships inside the monarchy. William, however, held the final practical authority over his children's attendance, travel, security, and access to any environment he believed might cause emotional harm. The king opened the meeting secretary's written account and read every line alone. When he reached Charlotte's question, whether she had caused the argument, he removed his glasses and stopped. Silence filled the room. A documented note prepared afterward recorded his private admission that he had ignored William's warning because he wanted the evening to resemble a real family reunion. Camilla urged caution when Charles later showed her the account. She warned that immediate exclusion could turn a painful private dispute into an international spectacle. The Queen Consort believed a permanent response made in anger would harden every side and make reconciliation almost impossible. Yet she also admitted that the children could not be used as symbols of unity again. William entered his father's study with no intention of negotiating away the boundary. The prince listened as Charles warned that complete separation might deepen the fracture between the brothers. He answered that a damaged relationship between adults could be repaired, but fear placed inside a child could remain for years. Catherine asked for no punishment. Through a recorded conversation with a trusted palace advisor, she requested written safeguards preventing Charlotte, George, and Louis from being drawn into future arguments, statements, or publicity. The Princess of Wales wanted protection, not revenge, because public punishment would only create another battle around the children. Palace legal advisors confirmed that no royal decree was required. A decree is a formal command issued under royal authority, but William and Catherine already controlled their children's private participation. Charles instead approved a family protocol, a written set of internal rules separating child-focused gatherings from reconciliation meetings involving disputed issues. The king held the pen above the page, then set it down before finally signing. The protocol was not an exile order, but its effect was unmistakable. No future meeting involving the Wales children could include Harry and Meghan without advance agreement. Harry read the copy twice. He understood that his father had chosen structure over trust. Meghan saw something darker, a private humiliation that could become public at any moment. The protocol was meant to contain the damage inside palace walls, but Harry's reaction ensured the fallout would begin before the ink had fully dried. Harry read the protocol twice before placing it on the table. The document never used the language of blame, yet its meaning was unmistakable. Future contact with William's children would now depend on conditions set by the Wales household. For Harry, the decision felt like more than a boundary. It felt like confirmation that one emotional explosion had erased years of shared childhood, private memories, and the last remaining hope of rebuilding his place within the family. Meghan stood near the window and asked why he had stopped reading. The Duke folded the paper once, unfolded it again, and admitted that he believed he was no longer trusted around his niece and nephews. The family protocol was an internal written agreement used to control private contact and prevent another confrontation. Its importance was brutal. It did not remove his title, but it placed distance between him and children he still considered family. Meghan reacted with anger rather than regret. She insisted that the document twisted her words and allowed William to define the entire gathering through Charlotte's distress. The Duchess argued that one frightened reaction had been used to erase every grievance she had tried to raise. Harry's voice changed. He said the argument should have ended the moment they realized the young princess could hear them. Meghan accused him of accepting his brother's version of events. He answered that recognizing harm was not the same as abandoning his wife. The silence between them felt heavier than the protocol itself. The consequences came quickly. Their planned departure was moved forward, and a private breakfast with Charles was cancelled. That meeting had been meant to continue reconciliation talks without advisors present, making its loss more than a schedule change. It removed the final chance for father and son to speak calmly before Harry left Windsor. Catherine then sent a brief personal message. She wrote that she did not want the children to fear him, but she needed him to understand why the boundary existed. The Princess of Wales offered no accusation. That restraint made the words harder to ignore. Harry began a reply, deleted it, and recorded a private voice message instead. He apologized for failing to stop the argument sooner and admitted that Charlotte should never have heard her name spoken in anger. Meghan asked him not to send it until they agreed on a united response. The Duke stared at the screen, trapped between marital loyalty and personal accountability. William soon learned that his brother had delayed leaving long enough to request one private conversation. The prince refused advisors, communications staff, and written notes. Nothing would stand between them this time. Harry typed 6 words and pressed send. "Meet me alone before I leave." For the first time since the gathering collapsed, the brothers would face one another without wives, aides, documents, or a royal table separating them. There were no secretaries in the room, no legal language, and no carefully arranged seating plan. William and Harry stood alone as brothers, rather than royal opponents. Neither offered an embrace. Neither began with an accusation. For several long seconds, they said nothing at all. Then Harry admitted the one truth that changed the course of the entire crisis. Charlotte should never have heard her name spoken in anger. William remained near the door, while Harry stood beside the fireplace, the distance between them carrying years of resentment. They had agreed that no account of the meeting would be released to the press. The private study at Windsor offered no institutional buffer, meaning no aides, advisors, or palace officials could soften what each brother chose to say. Harry spoke first. He admitted he should have stopped Meghan's outburst the instant Charlotte became part of the argument. The Duke said he still remembered his niece looking frightened and had replayed that moment throughout the night. William's expression changed slightly. His anger did not disappear, but the confession reached the father beneath it. The prince explained that removing his daughter had not been designed to shame Meghan or punish Harry. He had acted before the confrontation could worsen, because one more sentence might have stayed with Charlotte for years. That mattered because children often remember fear long after adults forget the exact words that caused it. It also mattered because the Wales children could not be allowed to inherit a conflict created before they were old enough to understand it. Harry admitted the protocol had hurt him deeply. It made him feel erased as an uncle, and treated his presence as a threat. William answered that trust could not depend on titles, blood, or shared childhood memories. It had to be protected through behavior. The Duke then revealed, through a private recording saved on his phone, that he had already prepared an apology for Catherine. He asked whether Charlotte might one day hear a simpler version when she was old enough to understand. William refused an immediate reunion, but agreed the boundary could be reviewed if private family moments remained private. Harry placed his phone on the desk and pressed send. The apology traveled to Catherine while his brother watched without comment. The gesture did not repair the past, but it proved he was willing to accept responsibility without demanding instant forgiveness. The brothers still disagreed over Meghan, the palace, and years of public pain. Yet they reached one firm agreement. None of their children would ever again be used to carry an adult grievance. William finally told Harry that the next step did not belong to the palace. It belonged to Meghan and Catherine. The brothers had found one narrow piece of common ground, but outside Windsor's private rooms, the story was already becoming a national judgment on motherhood, loyalty, and royal protection. By morning, the private gathering had become a public crisis. Broadcasters debated whether William's decision represented responsible fatherhood or another act of royal exclusion. Commentators argued over Meghan's words without hearing the complete exchange. Yet one image came to define the entire story. Charlotte leaving Windsor beside her father, her hand held tightly in his, while the doors behind them remained firmly closed. The front page carried only 4 words, a father's line. Beneath them, a photograph showed William guiding Charlotte toward a waiting car, as she stayed close beside him. The image mattered because it turned a private argument into a public symbol. It also shifted attention away from royal rivalry and toward the emotional cost being paid by a child. A morning broadcaster called it the moment the next generation became the boundary The monarchy could no longer allow anyone to cross. The phrase spread quickly. Some viewers praised the prince for acting without hesitation. Others saw another painful example of exclusion inside a family already divided by suspicion, interviews, and public accusations. Catherine watched the coverage without sound. When the photograph of her daughter appeared for the third time, she switched off the television. The Princess of Wales had accepted Harry's apology through a private message sent after his meeting with William, but she asked that he make no direct contact with Charlotte until emotions had settled and both parents agreed. Meghan read the online reaction alone. Her confidence weakened when even longtime supporters argued that mentioning the young princess had damaged her wider complaint about unequal protection. The Duchess had wanted the public to understand a system she believed had failed her family. Instead, the debate now centered on whether she had allowed personal pain to reach a child. Harry refused requests for interviews. The Duke honored the private promise made to his brother, even as television producers offered him space to explain his side. His silence mattered, because one public defense could have destroyed the narrow understanding the brothers had finally reached. A small crowd gathered near Windsor's Henry V Gate, an entrance used by visitors approaching the castle grounds. One woman placed a handwritten card beside the barrier. It read, "Children should never carry adult pain." That single message captured the mood more clearly than hours of debate. Charles rejected a harsher palace statement, blaming either side. The king approved only a restrained confirmation that the gathering had been private, and that decisions concerning royal children remained with their parents. He believed public punishment would destroy the fragile progress made between his sons. Meghan finally closed her phone. She understood that no interview, statement, or defense could settle what had happened. The decisive response had to come from her alone. The world had delivered its judgment in headlines, but the final verdict would depend on whether Meghan could speak without defending herself, and whether Charlotte's parents could accept what she said. The crisis ended not with a royal decree, a televised statement, or a dramatic public reunion. It ended with a private message containing no excuses. Meghan acknowledged that Charlotte had heard words never meant for her, and accepted that intention could not erase impact. William did not immediately restore trust. Catherine did not pretend the wound had disappeared. But the family finally agreed on one truth, stronger than every grievance. The children would no longer inherit the adults' war. Meghan recorded the message alone. She stopped twice, deleted every explanation defending her original grievance, and began again with a direct apology. The Duchess admitted that she had continued the argument after Charlotte entered the conversation, and accepted that the young princess should never have heard her name spoken in anger. A private recording carried the apology to William and Catherine, making the acknowledgement personal rather than public. Catherine listened beside her husband and became tearful when Meghan said Charlotte had done nothing wrong. The Princess of Wales heard no attempt to shift blame, and that mattered because trust could not begin with another argument. William remained measured. He acknowledged the apology, but confirmed that the boundaries would stay in place until consistent actions proved the same harm would not happen again. Harry accepted the decision without protest. The Duke understood that protecting the children had to come before restoring his access or position within the family. Charles kept the family protocol active, but removed language that made it sound permanent. A family protocol is a written set of private rules guiding contact and behavior, and the revised version allowed future review under calm conditions. William later sat with Charlotte and explained that adults sometimes say harmful things when they are angry. He told her clearly that none of the conflict had been caused by her. The young princess asked whether the family gathering would happen again. Her father answered that it might, but only when everyone was ready to behave with care. Catherine returned Charlotte's folded napkin to a drawer, instead of throwing it away. She kept it as a reminder of the moment protection became more important than appearances. Meghan's outburst had not permanently destroyed the family, But it ended the illusion that reconciliation could survive without accountability, preparation, and firm boundaries. The final verdict was unmistakable. William's removal of Charlotte was not royal cruelty or political strategy. It was a father refusing to let inherited resentment reach another generation. The monarchy survived because its adults finally accepted that no title, marriage, grievance, or public battle mattered more than a child's emotional safety. And in the silence that followed, the family understood the lesson completely. Reconciliation could wait, trust could be rebuilt, but childhood, once wounded, could never be restored in quite the same way. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.